I'm Polly Putnam, and I work for Historic Royal Palaces. We are the independent charity that looks after the Tower of London, Kensington Palace, Hampton Court Palace, Kew Palace, the Bankton House, and Hillsborough Castle. And we have a lovely couple of other properties at Kew that we look after, Queen Charlotte's Cottage, and hopefully, well, pretty soon we'll be taking on restoring the Great Pagoda in Kew Gardens. So I'm coming from a very different background to most of you. What also I'm going to do, again because I'm quite aware we're very behind on time, I'm going to ignore the videos that I've put in. If you want to see them, come and see me at the end. There's no school like the old school actually, I'm quite scared of it sort of being horribly wrong. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the chocolate kitchen. This, in many senses, this was an old-fashioned, research-based restoration project at Hampton Court Palace, and we strove to be as historically accurate as possible. However, visitor research afterwards indicated that we may have been accurate, but they felt that the experience was possibly inauthentic. Accuracy and authentic experience was in tension. However, we found that a good digital media experience resolves this tension, providing a truly authentic experience. How on earth do I change slides? Thank you. So this is Hampton Court Palace. Built, actually, we're about to celebrate our ring centenary. How does that work? 500 years of Hampton Court Palace, first started in 1515, and this is the side that the public know. So the project really came out from us wanting to. Arrows, I think. You can tell I'm a curator, can't you? I don't get out much. What we really wanted to do is tell the story of the other side, the Baroque side of Hampton Court Palace. And we responded to visitor research that wanted to hear more about the downstairs life of Hampton Court, the life of the servants. That's what people want to hear about. And so what we decided to do was tell the story of William and Mary's chocolate kitchen, which was put in about 1690. Chocolate was a drink at this stage. It was in the kitchen. It was browned from bean to cup to create a luscious, thick spice drink, and it was very much a part of the ceremonial life at court. It was drunk in the bedchamber. This is the real beating heart of the palace. This is where the king was, and you could see him at his most glorious and his most vulnerable, and get very, very importantly influence and hear what he's going to say, and at the same time drink a cup of hot chocolate. It's marvellous. So this is the Baroque side of the palace, and we did an awful lot of research actually to locate the rooms within the palace, and we, thanks to brilliant work by my intern Charlotte Barker, she actually located the rooms in Hampton Court, and there were two actual spaces. Firstly, the chocolate kitchen, where chocolate was actually made. So this is where the beans were roasted, they were ground and turned into a liquid. And the third room is the chocolate room, which was used for storage and preparation of chocolate. So chocolate we know was served from useful silver chocolate pots, but it's not really appropriate to pour chocolate out and pour into them in a room where things are being roasted and ground at the same time. So they needed a different room, and actually an extra room was put in specifically for this in 1702. And the other space that we worked on was the interpretation space. Nothing to do with chocolate, but it's a space where we're able to do live cooking, and there's also a little bit of projected stuff. So we worked with iPay, and they're a lovely team from New York, and they use projections using mapping techniques. So this is the chocolate kitchen. This is before restoration. I should add that this room was used as a storeroom. When I walked in on my first day actually working at Hampton Court, it was stacked high with shelves, covered in oasis. You couldn't see anything. And then when Charlotte located it, we said, right, can you clear out this room, please? And this is what we found. We found the shelves The spit racks, these are for when you roast things, you know the things we shove them through a pig and you roast them. You have racks to store those things. The original charcoal braziers, and I get a little bit sentimental about this very ordinary flat table. It's just an ordinary table, but this early 18th century, and these very, very ordinary things do not exist. They're really, really hard to find, so it's special. And so we wanted to treat this as a found space. So when we did the restoration, we kept things very, very plain, but we had lovely projections which worked as digital labelling. So the labels aren't interfering with the space, but they move and augment it. I think for time I'll probably leave that video, but we can have fun laptop times together at the end. So that in a way was easy. The other room, in the live interpretation room, we actually used our other Georgian kitchen, which is at Kew Palace, and sort of reversed it and then projection mapped onto the other space. So while live cooking isn't taking place, you have this beautifully mapped out story. Really, the room that I'm agonising over in this paper is the chocolate room. As you can see on the left, a bit of state, but also historically this room has been altered and changed an awful lot more. So we really had to almost start from scratch and really do research. We were, and I'm really proud of this, and I don't think you could get an algorithm to do this curatorial work at all. We used raking light surveys to sort of map out where the shelves would have been in the room. We used inventories from the chocolate kitchen, from the silver inventories which exist, to work out precisely what objects would have been in the room. We used our knowledge of the role of the chocolate maker. We know that he went up into the bedchamber with his silver pots, knowing that this was a room for storage and that final preparation. I should add that chocolate, it has a tendency to separate, so you need that final whisk before serving it to the king, which gives the chocolate maker a very, very elevated and privileged position. So basically everything in here is a fake, but very beautiful fakes. The only things which are real in the room are the antiques, and the reality was that it was cheaper to buy early 18th century Georgian furniture than it is to make new ones. But again, from what we knew from the royal accounts, there was a cup, a dresser, or a press as it was called. There was a table, there were chairs. And these are the recreations. And just to sort of tell you about the accuracy, we have a wonderful archaeological collection dug up from the moat at Hampton Court in 1910, and we found that wonderful fragment of a chocolate cup. And so we went to a potter, he recreated it using the original techniques based on the chocolate cup that we see here. So that's, a real Hampton Court chocolate cup recreated. Lovely object. This is a chocolate frame, and we based it on one in the Metropolitan Museum called the Lamoury. And just to tell you sort of how closely we strive for accuracy, we didn't just sort of pick any old silversmith's work to copy, or any sort of, we really wanted to use as close as it would have been. So called the Lamoury Royal Goldsmith. The chocolate pot that we recreated in pewter, Royal Goldsmith. There are other prettier ones, but again, we wanted to be very, very accurate. Glasses, that's an extant example from the museum. We followed inventories which said that they had stupid things like 24 glasses, 30 Mazarines. So, we can't buy that much Georgian glass, so we had to recreate it. The chaps we go to, they have a real problem, and they've now started signing all of their works because it's actually appearing in antique shops, being sold as the real thing. So we strove to be very, very accurate. I don't know whether I mentioned this before, but we did paint research so that room looked exactly as it would have done in terms of colour and in terms of the pigments used and the paint that we used. So I asked the question, have we created an elaborate fake? And to this really we have to think about what is an authentic experience? We did some visitor research in this because it's very important for our palaces. Hampton Court has over 500,000 visitors a year. It has a lot of wear and tear. Many circumstances dictate that we can't put real objects in everywhere. So this sort of question of authenticity is really important. So we did some research. And what we discovered is that authenticity for our visitors is subject related. So how they feel versus object related, what it is. So our visitors find this experience on the left of the chocolate room more authentic than real glass in a glass display case. You're experiencing Georgian glass as it was in the place where it was. So they write, when you're coming to a place like this, as soon as you walk through the door, you want to be taken back in time to that moment. And so they really want that sort of classic history where it happened experience. That's what they're after. However, there are other problems with the chocolate room as well. They're actually a bit nasty in our visitor research. One of the quotes came back saying, the chocolate room, it was awfully newly recreated, wasn't it? It was like one of those dreadful kitchens in location, location, location. Which is a terrible programme where rich people struggle to find houses to buy for £2 million. And the important quote here is, the shininess of the room doesn't sit well with the authenticity. But the problem is that our visitors actually conflate an authentic experience with stuff looking old. So what they forget is we're recreating the kitchen to be how it looked when our chocolate maker Thomas Tozier used it, but they actually want mess, rubbish, dirt and smells. But what we strive to remind people is this was the top chocolatier in Britain working for the king, and his kitchen would have been like Noma. Chosen Noma because it's Nordic after all. But you can see that this is a very beautiful laid out kitchen, but they want dirt and mess. So they want authenticity on their own terms. Right, I've actually got to go to the next bit. But what we did find about it is, no, let's start again. Sorry. When you go through floor and then you need to know something goes wrong. This isn't anything new. So Hampton Court has been the site of recreations for centuries, most notably and importantly Edmund Jesse's 1843 creation of Henry VIII's Great Hall, which, as well as the carefully researched paint scheme, also featured an elaborate new stained glass scheme featuring Cardinal Wolsey, Henry VIII and all of his 6 wives, which was entirely the product of Jesse's imagination. He also included a wonderful sort of pretend armour, Georges and the Dragons. And what he was trying to do is really create this sort of romantic, authentic experience. However, we can't do this in the 20th century. So Jesse was content to deceive, to blur the distinction between what was original and what was a conceit in order to inspire a sense of period. In the 21st century, our interpretive goal might be similar to Jesse's, but our methodology is very different. In the chocolate room, as with other recreated spaces at Hampton Court Palace, all new objects and interventions look new, so the recreation is obvious and honest. While this approach conforms to 21st century professional ethics, it puts us at odds with our visitors who find the newness unbelievable. Lowenthal, brilliant scholar, he described this experience back in 1991, saying, this is someone who went to Helsinki's Tenement Museum, this doesn't look how it should, it isn't bad enough. So the fellow wanted squalid disarray. So we need to work much harder in our interpretation to break this bridge gap. And so we found that some of our visitors were much happier with the appearance of the room once we explained it to them. So their responses are very different. there's a lot of effort put into using authentic techniques, which is really nice, and it makes me feel more interested in it. But none of that was in the information that I saw. Again, the space is probably about a quarter of the size of this room, and again, having acres of text everywhere does not meet the needs of many visitors' expectations. One, for example, said, people come to places like this for a romanticised view of the past. And if that's what you want, and that's what you want a bit of a fairy tale, and you don't really want to know how it's been put together. And so what we've been trying to do is reconciling it. So we create our online presence, where we show the recreations, we meet that need for people to tell the truth. I'm sorry, I've got to do this, otherwise. Oh no, it's all gone wrong. Sorry. Okay, no, I just wanted to click on the YouTube link. If you could do that, and I'll speak, and time is being saved. So, we documented the process of recreation on film, showing the craftsmen at work, interviewing them about the traditional materials and techniques, filming the curators, searching through the archaeology collection for 18th century cut fragments. We don't really need the sound, it's a bit boring. Partly because you hear me talking twice. But also it's a royal. The resulting film is available on our website, social media, and an edited version will shortly be available on our multimedia guides. This film allows us to be honest. We are not creating a fake, but we're telling a story. So in conclusion, Jean-Paul Sartre described the opposite of authenticity as bad faith. He argued that an authentic experience cannot be achieved whilst there is any sense of being duplicitous or trying to hide one's own true nature. Applied to this heritage context, digital technology, our online presence, has enabled us to reveal to visitors the true nature of the chocolate room as a recreated space. Therefore, we restore, recreate, and present the chocolate room in good faith to our visitors to provide an authentic experience in the truest sense. The reservations, the more sceptical visitors, before they had been told about the recreation process, the chocolate room, it was awfully neatly recreated, wasn't it? Were transformed into more positive responses. I think what they've done is brilliant if they tried to recreate everything in the actual way that it would have been done. So the recreation of the chocolate room becomes an authentic 18th century experience for those visitors who do not wish to lift the veil, but one that is honestly and explicitly authored in the 21st century. So thank you very much.